All right, hey, what's going on, everyone? I know I've been getting a lot of questions, a lot of asks about my skill tree. The PSO2NGS skill simulator finally updated, so I figured, you know what? I've been kind of pushing this off. Let's get this over with. This won't take too long. So for the Kvaris patch, I've been Techter fighter. So we're going to go over what my skills are and the reasons why. Let's go through fighter first because there really is no thought behind it. What are we going to do? We're going to take defeat advantage and we're going to put 10 points into it. We're going to take defeat PP recovery and we're also going to max it out. Now I know the skill simulator just got updated, so it might look a little wonky, but essentially we're maxing those things. Where do I put the other points? For me, it doesn't really matter because I don't play fighter. These are the only skills that I can use as a subclass. Everything else is either main class or weapon based. So for the sake, put them wherever you like. And that's pretty much fighter. So now let's talk about Techter. Techter is interesting because without bouncer or without force, we're gonna have to play around the blots or the elemental gimmicks, but we're gonna get into that in a little bit. Of course, first, we're just gonna take the shift to D-band skills. We're gonna take shift to effect advantage, effect amplifier for the down rate, D-band PP recovery, which is pretty good. And for the sake of Kvaris, I actually do like taking the D-band ward bad condition, but this might be a skill point that you can save for something else. And we'll get into what that something else could be. I don't take reverse bounty. Shift is on a 15-second cooldown. Don't really see the value in this skill. I'm going to leave these alone because we're going to come back to the top area. So let's just take care of our others. Of course, wand lovers, inline force. It's a great ability. Always want to have it when you use it when it's active because this is great for when you need to chase an enemy, especially in the air. But of course, also during downs when you don't have things such as compound techniques or PB. This is a great increase in DPS. Wand extra attack. Wand Art Skip Attack, these are the new skills in Kvaris, these are the go-to. Wand Guard Reflection, Wand Element Change. Even though we're in the Kvaris patch, I still do not see a strong need or value for Wand Element Revoke, so we don't put any points into that. We're gonna max counter. We're gonna max parry counter advance. These are important, especially when you start doing Wand Talus play, because this becomes great ranged and close range PP recovery when you're fighting in the air with Talus. We're gonna take Tricky Capacitor. Great skill, great burst damage. Tricky Capacitor Gauge Amplifier. This is great because all of your attacks are going to be element based. And so this is going to give your accumulation rate to Tricky Capacitor 250%, which means this is a great skill to use when it is ready. Talus Bloom after PP gain. Great skill. Essentially, this is the main reason next to also Tricky Capacitor skills of why I switched from Wand Jet Boots to Wand Talus. Now these skills, Talus Bloom Revoke and Floating Pillbox Multi-Rock. These are interesting ones. I have points in them for now. I've got some skill tree reset, so I'm thinking about that. The reason why I took Floating Pillbox is because it allows you to hit 3 targets instead of 1 target with your Talus weapon action, which gives you an additional 1 PP per hit. It's not the greatest, but it does something. On the fence of whether or not it's worth the skill point, I'm playing around with this. So like D-band ward bad condition, this also might be a skill point that you can save. Talus Bloom Revoke. Now, technically, especially when you multi-weapon, anytime you swap to your multi-weapon, you can essentially remove your Talus PA. I took this because there's a lot of situations where I want to cast techniques and I do not want to do it with wand, and it's very inefficient to, let's say, swap to wand, swap back to Talus with, let's say, a normal attack or a weapon action and then cast. So this is just quality of life. I can cancel my PA when needed, my Talus PA that is, and then get into casting, whether that's going to be for, let's say, like Fomelion, when I want to use a charged G-Megid, or with the new Om's Kvaris or Om's Vera, same enemy technically. When he has that orb out and it's gonna block my Talus shots because it's right in front of me, I wanna cancel my PA and start casting Charge Gifoye or Charge Gizon. Technically, you don't need this either, but I actually like this and find value with it just because of the amount of emphasis that I put into Talus. Of course, you could also remove that, giving you 3 points. Now we're going to go back up to the top of the screen. Weak element amplifier, we're still going to keep this at 10 points. 15 points, it gives you 25%. I'm of the mind that, 10 points for 2% is fine. 5 points for 5%, it's probably not worth it. The same thing with Awake. We're just going to put the 5 points in it. 10 points kicks it up to 25%. Your skill points, especially since what are we at right now, my current setup, we're at 35. Putting anything else for 1% increase, especially when it's only during the boss time and it's, a fixed amount, not very valuable in my opinion. So I leave these as is. Overemphasis, of course. Rested Field Techter, not because I want to heal anyone, but because I do like the 40% increase in healing. And of course, slow landing charge. This works for both your photon arts with wand, your techniques with wand, and your techniques with Talus. Not your Talus PAs, technically, you float anyway, but you know what I mean. So let's get into the blocks. This is the most interesting thing. So right now, if we look at my skill tree, I've only got 2 points, right? So I'm not going to be able to hit all of the elemental gimmicks. Which ones have I taken? And you can probably guess if you saw my wand Talus combo video about 2 weeks ago. It's going to be Barterblot, and it's going to be Maggot Sphere. The reason for this is that these are the strongest gimmicks. Now, once again, I'm a Techter, so I'm not casting a lot. I'm not really casting at all with my wand. In some cases I can, because it's not going to change the element of my wand. I'm going to be casting with Talus. And usually when I'm casting a technique, other than some very niche circumstances, it's going to be after a compound technique. And of course, for those who don't know, and of course for those who do know, after you're using a compound technique, depending on what element that you use, you will automatically charge the gimmicks associated with those elements. So you'll get a free Barterblot without having to charge it up, and a free Maggot Sphere. From a DPS standpoint, these are the strongest. Look at my combo video. A Baranstian to Tricky Capacitor to Barterblot is a great combo, super fast. It's my go-to whenever I have Tricky Capacitor up when the enemy is down. When I don't have any Photon Blast, or if I don't have Tricky Capacitor, I'm going to opt for Fomelian. And of course, after that one, it's going to charge Maggot Sphere, which does great damage on down targets. Zombie Clad, from a DPS standpoint, off element, is not great. And on element, it's borderline. It's over 400 DPS, but for instance, Maggot Sphere off element is over 400 DPS. Barterblot off element, because you don't have to charge it, is well over 400 DPS. So these are just go-to for damage, especially when we're looking at the fighter tree, where I have defeat advantage, where I'm getting an additional 5% damage when the enemy is down. Similar to Zondi, Zangel, even on element, is only 360 DPS. Now, while that is high, I can make the sacrifice and use other abilities, such as Swift Smash. I can go into my wand attack extra strings, So I really didn't feel like there was a purpose for Zangel, because I'm looking for things that are over 400 DPS. This is about what? If I look at the DPS charts, like 363 DPS on a charged Jizan on element. Same thing with Grant's Glitter. It's not really effective. I mean, Grant's Glitter is not really effective at all, regardless. It's really a force skill that can take advantage of it. And then you have Foyer Brand, which is interesting. And I say it's interesting just because of how it can be used in the current patch of Kvaris. I don't know if it has much value outside of that. It doesn't really provide much DPS. It's a slight DPS increase, but it's also for getting your PP back. So I'm looking for damage, especially for Techter Fighter. And of these 6 mechanics, Barterblot and Maggot Sphere are the only ones that provide that need. Now, of course, if you did decide not to go with D-Ban, Ward Bad Condition, and maybe you decided, I don't need Talus Bloom Revoke and I don't need the Pillbox, I would say then you could put points into Foyer, Zondi, and then Zangel. Probably in that order, especially for Kvaris, and you would be left with no skill points. But of course I don't do that, so this is essentially my skill tree that I'm currently using as we go through the Kvaris patch. If anything changes, I will update it, but you can find this skill tree in the link below. Other than that, let me know if you guys have any questions, and I will catch you next time.